Hello, welcome to A Story for You. I am going to read you one of my very favorite stories by a man named Dr. Seuss. Now, he's got a real name. That's what's called his pen name. He thought that name was cute to use to share his stories, but I'm going to read you one of my absolute favorite stories that he wrote called Horton Hatches the Egg. And it's a big book, so the pictures will be tough, but here is the first one. Here we go. Excuse me. Sighed Maisie, a lazy bird hatching an egg. I'm tired and I'm bored and I've kinks in my leg from just sitting here day after day. It's work. How I hate it. I'd much rather play. I'd take a vacation, fly off for a rest. If I could find someone to stay on my nest. If I could find someone, I'd fly away free. And there's Maisie, being a bad mommy. Most moms are good. Then Horton the elephant passed by her tree. Hello, called the lazy bird, smiling her best. You've nothing to do and I do need a rest. Would you like to sit on the egg in my nest? The elephant laughed. Why, of all silly things, I haven't feathers and I haven't wings. Me on your egg? Why, that doesn't make sense. Your egg is so small, ma'am, and I'm so immense. Tut, tut, answered Maisie. I know you're not small, but I'm sure you can do it, no trouble at all. Just sit on it softly, you're gentle and kind. Come be a good fellow, I know you won't mind. I can't, said the elephant. Please, begged the bird. I won't be gone long, sir, I give you my word. I'll be right back in a hurry. Why, I'd never be missed. There they are. Can you see? Let me look and make sure you're getting the whole picture. There you go. Very well, said the elephant. Since you insist, you go on vacation. Fly off, take a rest, and you want a vacation, so go fly off and take it. I'll sit on your egg and I'll try not to break it. I'll stay and be faithful. I mean what I say. Toodaloo, sang out Maisie and fluttered away. Off she goes. Oh, kitty. The first thing to do, murmured Horton. Let's see. The first thing to do is to prop up this tree and make it much stronger. That has to be done before I get on. I must weigh a ton. Then carefully, tenderly, gently he crept up the trunk to the nest where the little egg slept. Then Horton the elephant smiled. Now that's that. He sat and he sat and he sat and he sat. So sweet. I love Horton. All right. He sat all that day and he kept the egg warm, and he sat all that night through a terrible storm. It poured and it lightened, it thundered, it rumbled. This isn't much fun, the poor elephant grumbled. I wish she'd come back, 'cause I'm cold and I'm wet. I sure hope that Maisie bird doesn't forget. Aww. But Maisie, by this time, was far beyond reach, enjoying the sunshine way off in Palm Beach, and having such fun, such a wonderful rest, decided she'd never go back to her nest. So Horton kept sitting day after day. As soon as it was autumn, the leaves blew away, and then came the winter, the snow and the sleet. The icicles hung from his trunk to his feet, but Horton kept sitting and said with a sneeze, "I'll stay on this egg. I won't let it freeze. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. There we go. So poor Horton sat there the whole winter through, and then came the springtime with troubles anew. His friends gathered round, and they shouted with glee, "Look! Horton the elephant's up in a tree." They taunted, they teased him, they yelled, "How absurd! Old Horton the elephant thinks he's a bird." Let's see if we can see closer on part of it. They laughed and they laughed and they all ran away. And Horton was lonely. He wanted to play, but he sat on the egg and continued to say, "I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. An elephant's faithful 100%. Oh, kitty. No matter what happens, this egg must be tended. The poor Horton's troubles were far, far from ended. For while Horton sat there so faithful, so kind, 3 hunters came sneaking up softly behind. Uh-oh. He heard the men's footsteps and turned with a start. 3 rifles were aiming right straight at his heart. Did he run? He did not. Horton stayed on that egg. He held his head high and he threw out his chest. He looked at the hunters as much as to say, "Shoot if you must, but I won't run away. I meant what I said, and I said what I meant." Altogether, an elephant's faithful 100%. Brave Horton. But the men didn't shoot. Much to Horton's surprise, they dropped their 3 guns and they stared with wide eyes. "Look!" they all shouted. "Can such a thing be? An elephant sitting on top of a tree. It's strange. It's amazing. It's wonderful, new. Don't shoot him." Oh, kitten. I'm so sorry. My kitty's in there. It's making noise. "Don't shoot him. We'll catch him. That's just what we'll do. Let's take him alive. Why, he's terribly funny. We'll sell him to a circus back home for money." Make sure you can see the pictures. There we go. Horton's so worried. Let's see what happens. The first thing he knew, they had a big wagon with ropes in the front for the pullers to drag on. Then they dug up his tree and they put it inside, so Horton was so sad he practically cried. "We're off," the men shouted, and off all they went, with Horton unhappy 100%. Up out of the jungle, up into the sky, up over the mountains, 10,000 feet high. Then down, down the mountains, down into the sea went the cart with the elephant, egg, nest, and tree. Then out of the wagon and onto a ship, out over the ocean, and oh, what a trip! Rolling and tossing and splashed with the spray. And Horton said, day after day after day, "You know, don't you? I meant what I said, and I said what I meant, but oh, am I seasick? 100%. Poor little Horton. Little big Horton. He's so sweet. After bobbing around for 2 weeks like a cork, they landed at last in the town of New York. "All ashore," the men shouted, and down with a lurch went Horton the elephant, still on his perch. Tied to a board that could scarcely just hold him, bump, Horton landed, and then the men sold him. Sold to a circus. Then week after week, they showed him to people at 10 cents a peek. They took him to Boston, to Kalamazoo, Chicago, Weehawken, and Washington too. To Dayton, Ohio, St. Paul, Minnesota, to Wichita, Kansas, to Drake, North Dakota. And everywhere, thousands of folks flocked to see and laugh at the elephant up in the tree. Poor Horton grew sadder the farther he went, but he said, as he sat in his hot, noisy tent, "I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. And elephants, you know, faithful, 100%. There's poor Horton at the circus. Then one day, the circus show happened to reach a town way down south, not so far from Palm Beach. And dwaddling along up in the sky, who of all people should chance to fly by but that good-for-nothing bird, Runaway Maisie, still on vacation and still just as lazy. And spying the flags in the tents down below, she sang out, "What fun! Why, I'll go see the show!" And she swooped from the clouds through an open tent door. "Good gracious!" gasped Maisie. "I've seen you before." Poor Horton looked up with his face white as chalk, and he started to speak. But before he could talk, there rang out the noisiest, ear-splitting squeaks from the egg that he'd sat on for 51 weeks. A thumping, a bumping, a wild alive scratching. "My egg!" shouted Horton. "My egg! Why, it's hatching!" mine!" screamed the bird when she heard the egg crack. The work was all done now. She wanted it back. "It's my egg," she sputtered. "You stole it from me. Get off of my nest and get out of my tree." Poor Horton backed down with a sad, heavy heart. But at that very instant, the egg burst apart, and the pieces of red and white shell from the egg that he'd sat on so long and so well, Horton the elephant saw something whiz. It had ears and a tail and a trunk just like his. Here's the little baby elephant bird. And the people came shouting, "What's all this about?" They looked and they stared with their eyes popping out. They cheered and they cheered and they cheered more and more. They'd never seen anything like it before. "My goodness, my gracious," they shouted, "my word. It's something brand new. It's an elephant bird." And it should be. It should be. It should be like that. Because Horton was faithful. He said and he said. He meant what he said. And he said what he meant. Happy Horton with his little bird elephant. And mean old sad Maisie who should have known better. And they sent him home happy, 100%. The end. I love happy endings. That, boys and girls, is a lesson in faithfulness and love. Thanks for sharing with me. That's all for our story today. Be sure to let your parents know to like and subscribe. And if you have any comments that you want to talk to me about the story, or questions that you have, or information that you have, you can tell your parents and they can put it in the comments. And then if they set up their phone or their computer, when they subscribe, then they can click on the bell and that'll tell you every time I put a new video up. I enjoy getting this time with you. Bye-bye.